What's up, guys? Welcome to a special episode of the Young Guns podcast where we have the Bratt Pack who makes his return on the Young Guns podcast. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this with us. And
Absolutely.
honestly, you probably are hyped to be talking about this because your team is currently kicking ass and taking names.
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much for having me. The last time I was on here was a lot of fun, so I was really happy to come back. And we talked about a lot of things over the off season that, you know, have started to come true so far. So I'm happy to take a very, very premature victory lap here.
At least you didn't have to change your name after Jesper Bratt,
Yeah,
re-signed.
yeah, at least one more year of getting to stay on Twitter, right?
Yeah. We wanted to
No,
congratulate
actually,
you on the success you've had. You're currently at 11.3K, and you grew like immensely over the last course of the couple
Yeah,
months since we last had you on. So congrats on that. And
thank you.
it's really nice to see New Jersey succeeding. And after the whole Johnny Gaudreau situation, which we're going to be talking about today, um, that hurt a lot of Devils fans, and we'd like to hear your thoughts on what happened.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really really rough experience. Thinking we were gonna get him and going through that whole day. I mean, they drew it out. It was like 8:30 p.m. when he signed. It was terrible. Uh, and we went the whole day thinking, okay, they're just working out the contract. He's still coming here. And so when Columbus swept in at literally the last possible moment, it hurt. It was not fun. I think I went into a Twitter space immediately,
yeah,
and people were flooding in. Like, it was probably the highest listener count I've ever had, just because people wanted to listen to me scream about like how I didn't want to live anymore.
Oh my god.
like it was crazy. The one thing I will say since then, though, I mean, and obviously anything can change as the season goes on. We haven't looked like we've needed him. I think the money spent in other areas. I mean, we get Gaudreau, that John Marino trade probably doesn't happen, and John Marino has been amazing for us. We get Gaudreau, and we have less money for Bratt, who's having a career year this year. Like, we get Gaudreau, and that's $9-10 million less when we did spend to the cap this year, and it seems to be going pretty well. So
yeah.
it hurt at the time, but winning cures everything, and right now we're winning, so I'm not mad
And
about it.
and actually, it's funny you mentioned winning. It's because at the beginning of the season, and it was pretty funny. So the Devils start the year right, and actually, it was funny because before that we were doing a video. We had done a video about our most underrated teams, and we had New Jersey on that list as to one of the teams that we thought could break out. And they started the year not on not on the best foot, and obviously, you and a few other Devils fans as well were a little bit disappointed with their start of the year. And
Yeah.
you guys called for Lindy Ruff's head. I'm sure you guys are taking that comment back now, 100%
Oh my
after.
god, that was hilarious. And I stand by everything that happened, because I'm very much in the mindset that sports is meant to be very reactionary and sensational, and whatever happens in the moment is what's happening. So react to the moment, like, don't think, just do. And
Yes.
I think it's fun to behave that way. So I went to the opener in Philadelphia. I went to the home opener against Detroit. They lost both games 5-2, and it looked like the Devils from last season. It looked like the same team on the ice, and people were like, "No, we cannot have this. We cannot have the same team again. This can't happen."
Yeah.
So by the end of game 2, we were going with the Fire Lindy chants, and I was yelling them. I was there too. I was doing it. I stand by that. And so I think we won the next like 2 out of 3, and then after one of those losses we go for 9 straight now. And
Yeah.
after 9 straight, on Saturday we broke out the sorry Lindy chants.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah, so we actually had the Bratt Pack group outing on
Yeah.
Saturday, so there were about a little over 200 of us up in the upper level there. So we had a couple chants planned going in, and sorry Lindy was one of them. So we got that going, and you know what? It was great, and I love it, and I love the story, how it came full circle. As of right now, I run the Lindy Ruff job-o-meter after every game. So every morning after a game, I post like a little like red, yellow, green meter for Lindy Ruff.
Yeah,
And right now we're in green. Right now
that's
we're pretty deep into green right now.
And I remember like last time you came on, you were like a really like advocate for Andrew Brunette,
Mhm.
who's currently the associate coach for New Jersey to take over Lindy Ruff's job.
Yeah.
Are you still a believer in that?
I'm still a believer in that in the sense that it's still the ultimate plan. We just didn't know when it was going to happen. If Lindy Ruff came out and was 6-9 after 15 games, and we had to switch to Brunette, then I was all for it. And if Lindy Ruff has a great season, they make the playoffs, and at the end of the season, Lindy Ruff moves into a different role and Brunette takes over. I'm okay if it happens then too. So I still think that's the plan. I'm okay with waiting a little longer for it, but I think everyone knows what's happening.
and I kind of want to get into just the Devils as a whole this season, and we start off just kind of in net, and one of the things that I was actually going to mention, and Angelo actually wrote it in the comments here, and he wrote Vanacek is fine and we'll start tomorrow. I actually wanted to talk about Vitek Vanacek
Yeah.
a little bit, him and Mackenzie Blackwood, I think even Akira Schmid, who's played 2 games for the Devils this season.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on the goaltending so far for New Jersey? Obviously, last year they had issues, having goalies healthy and rotating. I think 7 goalies they had last year, or 8.
Yeah.
And now this year,
Terrible.
early on, they've got Vanacek and Blackwood and even Schmidt that are playing really good hockey and
Yeah.
looking like a lot different goalies, especially Vanacek. I think he's 6-1 now, so he's
Yeah.
doing well.
Yeah, I mean, when we talked this summer, the outlook was very, very firm. It was, if the goalies play well, if the goalies stay healthy, that is the one thing that will make or break the season for the New Jersey Devils. It was, if Blackwood and Vanacek work out, they could be great. If they don't work out, they'll be terrible. And right now, I mean, Blackwood just got hurt, so
Yeah.
in 3 to 6 weeks, we'll find out a continuation of who he's going to be. But Vanacek is playing great right now. Akira Schmid, he played about a game and a period, but after 4 periods of play, looks like he can at least hang enough to kind of get by for now. And that's really all we ever needed, because when you look at last year, the goaltending between like Gillies and Hammond and Schmid even last year, it's not that we needed a great goalie. We just needed someone to stop like a couple pucks a game, and we were not even getting that. We were letting in 5-6 goals a game. So we don't need these guys to be amazing, but if we could get 2 or 3 against us instead of 6, we're going to win more games. So
Absolutely.
Right now they're looking great. Vanacek is playing out of his mind. He seems to be healthy. I think they held him out for 1 game just for precaution. But if he can keep up, or even if he can regress a little bit, even if he gets a little worse, I think we're still okay for now.
And what's crazy about this whole like goalie carousel that happened during the summer is that Washington gets rid of Samsonov and Vanacek.
Yep.
They're currently playing very well on their respective new teams, right?
Yeah.
And they're
Yep.
both in a playoff position. Whereas Washington is not in a playoff position, and their new goaltender, Darcy Kemper, is not having the best start of the season. So
Yeah.
you really believe that a change of scenery is what both of these goalies needed?
Yeah, the more I've looked into goalie play on different teams, I mean, I'm still a very casual fan in the sense that, I don't know what like the smart people know. Either, I just make jokes on Twitter,
That's
So
it.
the more I look at these goalies and the places they go, and everyone talks about these coaching systems and how does the play in offense and defense affect the type of shots that the goalie sees, or how many shots the goalie sees. And right now the Devils are letting in the fewest shots in the whole league.
Yeah.
And last year they were letting in a ton of shots. And like I said, I'm not a smart guy, but letting in a ton versus letting in a little seems like that would affect goalie play. So I don't know if the same is for Samsonov. I don't know if Washington had a system that didn't love goalies and maybe lets in a lot of high danger chances, whatever it is. But right now the Devils are helping their goalies out, which we have not seen in a while.
And I want to kind of get into a little bit of like the forward core a little bit just over here, because Actually, one thing that I really want to talk about, obviously, your boy Jesper Bratt, leading the team in points and having a
Yeah.
career year to start off. But
19
not only
points in
that, but
15 games.
that's it. But
Yeah.
not only that, Jack Hughes and also Nico Hischier being more than a point a game. And I believe I read a stat on Twitter. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they have not lost a game when Nico Hischier has a point. I don't know
Yeah,
if
they're
that.
10-0.
And
So that's
yeah. I
crazy.
would like to say something about Nico Keisher because a
Yeah.
lot of people were calling him a bust because of he was always injured all the time. They were saying he was injury prone.
Yep.
Look how well he plays when he's 100%. This is the
Absolutely.
Nico Hischier that the Devils were hoping for when they drafted him, and he's a huge reason why this team is currently first in the Metropolitan with 24 points. Because when him were injured, that's a huge blow. With him healthy,
100%.
look at the top 3 point getters right now: Bratt, Hischier, and Hughes. And moving forward,
That's the
that is
core.
fantastic. And finally, Dougie
Absolutely.
Hamilton, not
Yeah.
having the great start that he wanted with the New Jersey Devils, finally panning out as the
Yeah.
number one defenseman for New Jersey. Everything is going well. Thomas Tatar, who would have thought? 11 points in 15 games. He's playing at the same level as he was when he was playing with Dano and Gallagher back in Montreal a couple
Yeah.
years
Yeah.
ago. Like
Yeah.
Miles Wood, the guy that everyone wanted literally dead because of his comments saying that this is a team that lacks, winning mentality. And people are like, well, what the hell have you done?
Right.
He literally has 9 points in 15 games. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
everything's working out.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and honestly, a lot of it is what we talked about this summer, especially with Heishier and Hamilton. Is I mean, Heishier has gone through injury stuff. Don't get me wrong; he hasn't always looked 100% when he hasn't been 100%. But there was a turning point last season for him, and it came. And I remember the exact goal. I encourage everyone to watch it, and I've said this many times. There was a goal he scored in Dallas at the end of the year where he kept the puck for like 45 seconds just himself, like skated around the offensive zone like 3 times before charging the net and taking the goalie one-on-one score. And there was a shift in confidence when he realized, oh my God, like I don't have to pass to a superstar. I am a superstar. Like I can do this. And since then he's been playing with that confidence of the number one overall pick superstar that he can be. And we're seeing it, come to life. We're seeing him be a superstar. So I'm having a great time. I know, this is the player the Devils wanted. And we also talked about Hamilton a lot. I remember over the summer,
Yep.
we definitely talked about this, where everyone around the league looked at Dougie Hamilton, looked at his stats, and that was it. And they said, "Wow, he's off to a slow start. Devils overpaid. He's not the player."
Yeah.
He had a broken jaw and and I think I confused this when we talked last as well. I don't remember if it was a finger or a toe, but it was one of them. He had a broken bone, and there was some interview that another player did where they said, you can't recover from a broken jaw mid-season because your jaw might recover, but your diet, your training, you're like 6 weeks behind now. You can only catch up during the off season. He will not physically be the same until the off season. And I remember us going through that conversation.
Yep.
And guess what? He's back, just like, we said he would be back. So I'm so happy he's back, and I'm so happy he's the player that, we bought 2 summers ago. But anyone who actually paid attention knew this was coming, and anyone who knows anything about player health was ready for a comeback season from him.
And just looking at New Jersey's top four, like it's only like what 15 games to the season. Their top four all have over 5 points, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like
Very well.
and defensively and offensively, like they're playing well. And like just by looking at their team on paper, even heading into the season, we all knew this was going to be a very, very deep blue line. People are even saying that Severson would be expendable in a trade.
Yeah.
That's how deep they were to make room for a guy like Simon Nemec or
Right.
Luke Hughes. Who I do. Do you believe that Luke Hughes will join the New Jersey Devils by the end of the season once his
Yeah.
NCAA contract is done?
Yep. I think once the NCAA is done, I think he'll join. I don't know. So, I mean, University of Michigan, his team is, supposed to go pretty deep unless they get upset. So they should be playing deep into the postseason. So he may not get to the NHL until there's like 5 games left in the season. But if Michigan gets knocked out early and he gets some considerable time, I think that number 3 left spot that Brendan Smith is currently in would be wide open for Luke.
And one thing that I wanna talk about too, actually, because when you came on, it was right before the draft, and we had asked you who you wanted the Devils to
Yeah.
draft, and they ended up going with Simon Nemec, who was a defenseman. And I honestly thought, Nemec was going to make the team straight out of training camp. He was going to be on that decor with the Devils, but he's been playing in the AHL. I don't know how well he's done. I haven't really paid attention to it that
Yeah.
much, but and also replacing Johnny Gaudreau, they ended up going to get Andre Palat, who hasn't really done much for the Devils because he's only played 6 games, has
Yeah.
had 3 goals during that span, but is now out with an injury. So, having 2 guys potentially in Nemec, who they haven't needed to rely on yet, and obviously Andre Palat, who they signed this summer as insurance to get some more scoring, the Devils are still doing really, really well. So I'm
Yeah.
just kind of curious as to obviously watching the Devils and seeing Palat, but also I'm guessing watching Nemec in preseason, what your thoughts were just on those two, and you think that they could make an impact if if Nemec gets called up or when
Yeah.
Palat comes back from injury.
Yeah, you know what? If we drafted Nemitz any other year, he probably would be on the team. I think this year specifically, there's just such a log jam on defense where the team looked at him and said, "Guess what? We don't need to rush you, so we're not going to. If
Yeah.
we can give you your time to develop and make sure you're the best player you can be before you have to hit NHL ice, we can afford it now. We couldn't afford it before. Now we
Yeah.
can." So I just think there's just no rush for him. There's no pressure on him to immediately step in and be the guy. And I really hope that helps him. I hope that, gives him all the opportunity he needs, because the truth is we don't need him right now. And that's a
Yeah.
good problem to have. And, maybe the trade deadline comes. Maybe they get rid of, Graves. Maybe they get rid of Severson. And maybe that need changes. But as of right now, he has all the time in the world. There's no use in rushing him. He didn't look, 100% NHL ready. I think he does need some time in the AHL. And the big thing for him was coming over to North American ice for the first time, getting a feel for the dimensions. I know, he was making some mistakes that the ice felt a little tighter than it did in Europe because, he
Yeah.
had less room to make some of those moves. So I'm okay giving him that time. He'll figure it out. I'm not really worried about it. Um, and especially look at Palat. Like you said, we brought him in as insurance, and so far, realistically, we haven't needed him. And I don't think that'll always be the case. I think, when guys go up and down, we will need that insurance. We'll need him to pick up some slack. I mean, Miles Wood is not going to score,
Yeah.
70
Yeah.
points this year. So, Palat will need to pick up some slack there. But as of right now, it's okay. We're not worried yet. We don't really need it. And a lot of the guys who we've been waiting to develop for a couple of years are here now. So it's almost like we got better. It's not almost. It is like we got better by not making so many moves, because some of the guys that we were just waiting on, 3 years ago, we thought, okay, they're too young. They're not good enough yet. Well, guess what? Now they are. So some of the guys like Zetterland are stepping into roles now that we have expected for a few years, but now they're ready. So a lot of the holes that, needed to be filled were filled very naturally by guys just who are ready to step up now.
And I put up a poll like right after the off season technically finished, and we
Yeah.
were heading to preseason. Who would be the GM of the year? I put Tom Fitzgerald as an option. People were
Yeah.
saying, why? And I'm like, because of the players he drafted, and I'm a strong believer that sometimes not making a lot of moves is the best move. And that's exactly how it played out, where he only brings in technically the only impactful player, is Palat, right? In terms of veteran experience. And also, if this team goes into the playoffs, a guy like Palat is very key. This guy
Right.
has gone to the Stanley Cup Finals 3 times and has won 2 Stanley Cups with Tampa Bay.
Right.
And he is a playoff performer. We've seen that,
Yep.
last year, especially how he literally picked up the slack when other key players on Tampa Bay were not getting the job done. He was
Yeah.
the man to get it done, right? So, not only that, the John Marino trade looks like an absolute steal. Ty Smith is
Can't
not even
believe that.
playing not even playing with the Pittsburgh Penguins. And
No.
not, I know we're Habs fans, but look at Pittsburgh's defensive core without Mike Matheson and John
Yeah.
Marino. They are
They're-
not even in a playoff spot right now.
Yeah,
Sure,
they're
Derek
struggling.
Petrie is getting all these points, whatever, but you
Right.
know, that's offensively talking. Defensively speaking, he's not that great. And we've always known that. He's more of an offensive defenseman. But Ty Smith not even being on that roster and playing in the AHL, like that's just laughable at this moment because like
I know.
that was not how it was supposed to go down.
I know. The moment the trade happened, it was the safe pick versus the boomer bust pick. The one guy has a little lower ceiling, but he'll definitely give you what he has. The one guy has a little higher ceiling, but we don't know if he'll ever get there. And I mean, 15 games in, it already looks like a no-brainer. I mean, John Marino is playing out of his mind right now. He looks way better than the safe pick.
Yeah.
And Ty Smith's not even in the NHL. When you evaluate a trade and one guy's not even in the league anymore, it's kind of safe to say we have a decision made.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I did a breakdown with our fellow coast, in terms of the whole Ty Smith, John Marino thing, and we even said it. Ty Smith has the higher ceiling, but we were talking to some Devil fans that entered our chat, and they were saying, "But did you see the defensive mistakes he made?" And
Right. Yeah.
every time the John Marino trade is brought up this season, I'm seeing clips of Ty Smith giving me the puck, and it causes a turnover, and it leads to a goal. And I'm
Yeah.
just there laughing, and I'm like, these Devil fans, man, they know what they're talking about. They knew the moment he was gone, and they were celebrating, and the rest of the league was like, "Whoa, why would you get rid of a guy like Ty Smith who has a
Yeah.
higher ceiling?" The Devil fans, they watch these games. They watch
Yeah.
all 82 games of the season. They know what they're talking about. They were right at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That one specifically they were, and also another one Devils fans knew what they were talking about was the Pavel Zacha trade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that Eric Holla has been amazing so far, but I remember, again, the moment the trade happened, people were talking about, oh, well, all Pavel Zacha needs is a fresh start in Boston. Put him with Bergeron and Pastrnak, and he'll be a superstar. Guess what? He's not, and he never will be. I for all intents and purposes, I wish the guy well, and I hope he turns into, the best player he can be. But he's already on the third line. Again, 15 games in, we already see who he is again.
But he's
So
not having a bad season though. 9 points in
he's
16 games,
no,
and the
Not at
Boston
all.
Bruins are kicking ass. So like, whether if he was still in New Jersey or Boston, he was going to be on a playoff contender.
yeah.
So I think he doesn't mind at the end of the
Well,
day.
No, and he's not. He's not.
yeah.
He's not terrible. It's
He's
just
not Ty Smith.
right.
He's
We
not in
did
that
have
situation.
we did have Bruins fans telling us, oh, put him next to Bergeron and he'll score, a million goals. And it's like, nah, it doesn't quite work that way.
Yeah, that's not how that works. But I wanted to kind of just talk about this a little bit too. Obviously, you're an advocate for Jesper Bratt as the best player in the NHL.
Yes.
And so it's funny because I was at the beginning of the year, right? You obviously people do fantasy drafts or whatever, and I was like going through like my team, and I realized that at one point that Jesper Bratt was available, and I actually thought about like the conversation that when you had come on that you said like, oh, the Devils had signed, we're going to sign Jesper Bratt, and you actually felt like he was going to prove it this year, right? Like it
Yeah.
was going to be a prove it year for him, and he
Mhm.
wanted to sign that deal to kind of prove it. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take Jesper Bratt, and I'm gonna try to see what's gonna happen. So I took him in my fantasy draft, and let's just say he's carried me to victories a few times this season. So I'm grateful for that, and obviously. I picked Jack Hughes as well. So the Devils so
Beautiful.
far, my two Devils picks that I've picked up have ended up being good. But for me, I think the question that I'm going to kind of ask you, and obviously you're a little bit biased because you're a Bratt fan, is obviously last year he had 70 points, and there was a lot of expectation around him as can this guy continue that success for a long period of time? And I think so far early on, he's showing that he is a really good player in this league. He is a superstar in this league. Do you think that he maintains that all season? And if he does, I know it's still early, but is this a guy that's going to cash in next summer potentially and get a massive, massive deal?
Yes. Overall, yes.
Yeah.
I think there were another, it's another case of anyone who was really, really paying attention knew, and I don't mean to say that anyone who wasn't paying attention or whatever, like
Yeah.
you really had to be invested in it to really follow along. I don't blame anyone for not, but looking at his like training over the summer and the workouts he was doing, and the work he was doing with his skating coach out in Sweden, you could just tell this guy had, I mean, and he said it himself, he had another gear in him completely. He had a whole other level that he wanted to take his game to. And throughout his career, every time he said that, he's done it. So I had no doubt that he was going to come out, like a bat out of hell, and score, as many points as he has. Um, and it's a really interesting prove it situation, much like, if either of you guys follow baseball, it's much like the Aaron Judge situation where the Devils did offer him, a fair deal, but
Yeah.
he was the one that said, no, I want way more even, and I'm going to show you why. And he's going and he's showing them why. So, because you see a lot of, prove it deals are usually from the team. It's
Yeah.
usually the team saying, well, you need to prove it to us for us to give you this offer. And this is kind of different. This was Jesper saying, no, I see your offer. I still have more. We still
I'm
have
betting
more to
on
do here.
myself.
Yeah,
Right.
he bet on himself like crazy. And, if he doesn't cash in, then it was all for nothing. So
That's what
he's gonna cash in.
it's the hope that at the end of the season he ends up cashing in.
Yeah.
But
The
Well,
whole idea is that he's gonna cash in on it.
well, looking
yeah,
at his contract and looking at the people like his age, like Nick Suzuki, T.H. Thompson, Jordan Kyrou, I would have to assume that his next contract would be in the $7 to $9 million range per
yeah,
season.
I think that's what
Um,
we're looking at.
yeah,
yeah,
right now, he's currently getting paid what, like $5.45 million, right? So,
Yeah, that
um,
was just the 1 year number just to get something and
yeah,
to move on. Um, so my feelings on the matter, this is just my guess. I have no,
yeah.
information here. My guess is that the Devils offered him somewhere in the high sixes, maybe pushing seven. And I think he thinks that he's worth more like 8, 8.5. So I think that, honestly, I think we're going to see something around 8 long term.
And just one final question from me before, because I know we know that you have to leave soon. You have another endeavor to
Yeah.
go to. So, just my final question. Obviously, we talked about this before the podcast started. Tomorrow, New Jersey are in Montreal. We're Habs fans. You're a Devils
Yeah.
fan.
Yeah. I'm
Now,
excited.
looking forward to potentially breaking the 9 game winning streak mark, but also for
Yeah.
Habs fans, we're a little bit confused at the moment because
perfect timing to do this podcast.
like perfect timing, but also a little bit confused on our end because a lot of us don't know if we want to win or lose this season. We're kind of still in that position of like we're winning, but also why are we winning,
Yeah.
right? So like, just it's gonna be fun, and I think we're gonna be looking forward to that tomorrow. And I'm kind of curious. I haven't really watched the Devils that much this season, so I'm excited to see what they're gonna do tomorrow against a young Habs team that is overperforming. So
Should
just
be interesting. I totally understand where you guys are coming from, because that was the Devils, the past few years. Like, do we want to win? Do we want to lose? Like, what's going to make us better overall here?
yeah.
And you see these glimpses of, well, why can't we be the young, fast team that goes and proves it to everyone that we can just do this now? And then you lose a few games, and you're like, no, 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 we still need Bedard.
Yeah,
I get it.
Like I have two final questions before you
Yeah.
yeah.
go. So, Devils franchise record, 13 straight wins that was set on February 26th, March 23rd. From February 26th to March 23rd, 2001. Do the Devils beat their franchise record?
I know we have the Habs next. I don't know who the two are after that.
I can check for
There
you.
are three to get us to 13.
You're playing the Habs, Leafs, Sens, and Oilers.
I want to say no. I think between the Leafs, Sens, and I think we're gonna beat the Habs. I think we do. I think we get 10. Between the Leafs, Sens, and Oilers, I think those are all three very tough teams. Um, you know, I think we might pull one or two out of those three, but I don't think we'll get all three. So I don't see it going 13 games. But honestly, it's okay. A heat check is fine. I just want to keep a reasonable pace moving forward long term.
Yeah,
And
and
I
you can't
think,
win them all.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
think this is the question everyone's probably like, waiting for.
Okay.
Are the New Jersey Devils the real deal this time? And like, or is this just a glimpse of a fantasy in the New Jersey Devils mind?
Yeah.
And all this is a mirage. And like, once they get that first loss and that record is shattered of 9 straight games or whatever, how long they go for in
Right.
terms of a winning streak, and then it starts going downhill. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, how far
Yeah.
they go into the playoffs if they do manage to make the playoffs, and where do they finish in the standings?
Um. So the question: Are they the real deal? I want to say yes. However, I don't think the real deal necessarily has to be, winning the division, winning the conference, winning the cup, whatever it is. So,
Yeah.
will they stay in the position that they're currently in? Probably not. I don't think this is a powerhouse team that's going to stay number 3 in the league and win the Metro by a long shot here. But we're starting to hit a point in the season where 10 games is 10 games. That
Yeah.
is a chunk of the season now that even if they do slow down, it still happened. We still have those points. 2 points is 2 points, whether it's November or
Exactly.
April. So the further they go with this, the more we have to acknowledge it. However, I do see them slowing down. I don't, before, when we talked, over the summer, I had them between 90 to 95 points, pushing for the second wild card spot,
Yep.
maybe even missing it, um, probably missing it, even maybe even making it. Um, so I feel a lot more optimistic right now that maybe we get third in the Metro, or maybe we get that wild card 1 spot. Maybe we even still get wild card 2. But at this point, I do think they are playing to the potential that I thought they had in them and was not sure about. So it'll be the same thing with goaltending. If goaltending holds up, that'll be the make or break, yes or no. But at this point, I don't think this is a crazy overachievement. I think this is realized potential. So it will go up and down. It will slow down. But overall, I think the Devils are here. I think we're going to see a lot more from them this year.
And it's
Yep.
about time because the team that we've been seeing, in terms of prospects, acquisitions through trades, like this is one of the better Devils teams we've seen in years. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
say that this is a team that's like comparable to like the Brodeur days.
Right, right,
Like
right.
we're not even close yet.
Well,
But
Right.
speaking of Marty, he got I think he got hired as VP of hockey ops or ops.
Yeah, he was with the organization before. I guess it's just a promotion. Um,
Yeah.
I never know when it comes to like, high profile players in terms of management positions. I never know what's just a title to give them money and what's
Yeah.
actually them doing the work. So I don't know how much of a hand he's going to actually have in the organization, but he's a fan favorite. He's a legend. It can't hurt to have him around.
Of course, never. It can never hurt to have Marty around.
But we just like to thank you for coming on to this podcast. All the Devils
Absolutely.
fans that tuned in, or the Young Gun podcast fans in general, thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please subscribe. Our goal this year is to hit 2K. We did it last year. We
Beautiful.
hit 1K in 1 year. So let's try to get 2K in year 2. So
Awesome.
just setting up some milestones for ourselves. And thank you once again for tuning in, and thank you for joining us. And let's
Absolutely.
hope that the New Jersey Devils win the Metropolitan, but ultimately the one goal that everyone
And
wants is the Stanley Cup.
and
Yeah,
we'll and
absolutely.
we'll have and we'll have Bratt Pack on again at the end of the season when it's all said and done to recap the season as a whole again. So
Yeah.
we hope that it's not the last time you'll see Bratt Pack on our video. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, hey, I'll be back anytime you guys will have me. I love being here. So thank you guys for having me so much.
Yeah, no
And I
problem.
look forward to talking to you as the season goes on. And
For
I will
sure.
close with Jesper Bratt is the best player in the NHL.
You're
There it
not
is,
wrong
guys.
about that. And guys, please follow him on Twitter. He's kicking ass right now. He's currently over 11K on Twitter followers. He's going to continue to rise until probably the Devils, snap their winning streak. But guys, join the Bratt Pack. It's awesome.
Yep.
They're making some noise on Twitter. And with that being said, guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Young Guns Podcast. We'll see you on the next episode.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.